Okay, the time is 2:33 p.m. on Sunday, January 2nd, 2022. Happy New Year, everybody. You are listening to Eric on the World. I'm your host, Eric, and I'm super excited because I have a guest again on the podcast. He is a comedian here in Prague, so I'm very excited to have Babiker on this show.
What's up, dude?
How's it going, man?
All good.
Yeah, thanks for being on.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, so you have like a very, I think, unique story for a comedian. So we met just doing, I guess, when I came. Did we meet a month ago? I can't even remember.
No. I don't think I saw you on that show.
Okay,
so just like a week ago, I guess.
Yeah. Since I've been back here in Prague, in like doing the comedy shows and stuff, Yeah, so you are living here in Prague, and I know you said this is always a complicated question, but maybe when someone says, where are you from, what's the answer you
My
give?
My favorite question.
Yeah.
Do you know like the two-button meme where like the guy's sweating? Like doesn't know which button to press.
I'm sure I've run across that. Yeah,
but like there's one for like nationality. It's like, oh, the country that I was born in, the country that I was raised in, the country that my parents are from. It's like this is
yeah.
My meme. And the meme was like, sweating. Which one do I pick for today?
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was born in the UK. My parents are originally from Sudan, and I guess I lived most of my life in Saudi Arabia. And currently, I'm in Prague.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So how many passports do you hold?
Just one.
Just one. Okay.
It's really annoying.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could be one of those people who's like, oh, I got 4 passports. Like, yeah. Unfortunately.
At least up until like a year ago, it was still like a very valuable one, though. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Oh, I thought you said you were born in the UK.
Oh, I was born. See, this is so. We're gonna go with my passport story to start with. So this is I hate saying this story, but like it's always a good one. So I was born in the UK and lived there for like 10 years. So technically, my father could have applied for citizenship for us, like me and my older sister.
Yeah,
she's like 1 year older than me, but he didn't. He just like at the time the Sudanese passport was okay. It wasn't like top 5 worst passports, which is what it is now. And also he was a very proud father, and I had some relatives who had already, I guess, naturalized in the UK. And my father wasn't a big fan of how they turned out, so he was like, to protect my kids from Western influence, I shall I shall make sure they don't get the passport. So fuck them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty much.
So does that mean that there was like, can you legally live for 10 years in the UK without a UK passport?
I mean. Yeah, I mean, like the thing with passports in general is like you have to apply for them to get them. Like you can, like the government doesn't just like, oh, here you go.
No,
like the second the 10 years pass, it's like here's your pass. Like you have to apply and you have to give the paperwork proving that you live there.
But like
it's a long process. Yeah.
At least for me, is like as a U.S. citizen, like without.
Like there are people in the U.S. who don't have a passport, but like they just live there. They've never left, so they don't have a reason for having.
Well, no, but they have like a green card or something. Like I can't stay here without it being a student. Like I can only stay here for 6 months, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. But like, yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, this case never happens because usually when people live in these countries, they want to get the passport as soon as possible, right? They're not trying to avoid them, but yeah.
Yeah.
We annoy our father every other day about it. It's like, if only you had given us that passport.
So up until 10, when you're going through like the British school system.
Yeah.
So
I went to a Catholic school actually.
Okay, all right. Fair
in the UK. Yeah. My dad had to go to court to make like me and my older sister like go to that school. Not because it was Catholic. It was because it was full. But like he could have taken us to a public school.
Yeah.
And so he had to go to court to make us go to this Catholic school. And he was like he went there and he's like, I believe that, like the Christian faith and the Muslim faith is very close, and that's why I want my kids to grow up in a religious school, not in an evil public school, atheist, whatever. And yeah, that's how we went there.
And is that just like the idea is that the education system is much better in the Catholic school than the public school?
Well, that was part of it, definitely. Like that was a very good school. That's why it was full, which is why my dad wanted us to go there. Yeah.
So up until 10, I mean, you were just like fluent in English. Like that was never a struggle. Yeah. Like,
I mean, I guess. So I was speaking Arabic at home, but like we learned English very like as soon as I went to nursery and these stuff. Like I learned it very like I definitely mastered English before Arabic. So
yeah.
I used to have a Scottish accent.
Oh man, I would love to. You know, I mean, I've noticed just in the different scenes, like there seems like there's even more Scottish comedians than English comedians that I mean. Like there's like at least 3 here in Prague,
yeah.
and
it's just attracting all of them. It was actually a funny thing. So the city that I lived in is called Airdrie in Scotland. Yeah. So I was talking with Grant and like another Scottish comedian. What's he called?
Greg.
Yeah, Greg. Craig. And I mentioned to them like the city. I was like, yeah, it's really close to Glasgow. It's like it's closer than either of your cities. And they're like, no, Airdrie is on the east coast. I was like, wait, Airdrie is in the center. And they were both like, no, it's on the east coast. And then we just literally opened Google Maps and like, no, Airdrie is like literally 2 minutes away from Glasgow. I was like, I should be the Scottish, not you guys.
Yeah.
Why the fuck, guys? But yeah.
Cool. And then what inspired the move from there at 10 years old?
So, I mean, my family left the UK. We went to Sudan, where we're originally from. I guess my dad wanted us to just have like a more Arab Muslim atmosphere around us, especially because we were growing older, and I was a very, very naughty child. It was very clear.
Wait.
It was very clear where I was. It was very clear where I was going.
What does this mean?
So, like, my dad was like, "You gotta leave the UK very fast. You need to go back home."
What does this mean? You were a naughty child. Like, what does that specifically mean?
So, like, I was, like, pretty much the baddest kid in class. Like,
oh, really?
Like, it doesn't look like it now, right? But like back then, like I would talk back to the teachers all the time, talk back to my parents. Like I ran away from my home twice as a kid. Like it was fucking bad.
When you run away, like at that age, how do you even have a plan of like what are you just gonna like hide?
When I say I ran away, like it's like literally I walked to the supermarket and realized I didn't know much. But one time actually, like the police had to get involved to get me.
Oh shit!
That was really awkward.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I'm sorry. Then you went to Sudan or you went to Saudi?
We moved to Sudan first. We stayed there for like 2 years. But like Sudan is very poor, and my dad couldn't get a good job because, well, there isn't. Yeah, the pay isn't very good no matter where you work in Sudan. So he moved to Saudi Arabia.
So that first move from UK to Sudan, do you remember that? Like, was there culture shock for you?
Oh yeah, that was. It's probably the most depressed I was ever was when we moved to UK to Sudan because like. We're talking like we're moving to a country where like electricity goes out like every other day. Like, you know, the basic like water sometimes cuts out. Like, you know, my grandmother's home, which is where we lived for the most part, like that had good utilities. But like we would visit like my father's relatives and like they would not have running water. Like they would literally, they have like these huge like bottles where they like every like the morning of every week they would fill them up with water from the Nile and then use that for the rest of the week. Yeah. And that's it wasn't very clean.
You have to boil that water, right? Like,
I mean, they cleaned it, but it wasn't clean enough. I'll put it that way. Like every time I drank from that water, I would have like very bad diarrhea.
Yeah. In terms of so when I think of Sudan, I mean, I think of like very African, like. Does it look like what we would think of as like? I'm just curious, like the phenotype of people, like how they like. Is it?
I mean, Sudan is kind of unique because it's like so. In the, let's say the African continent, you have the north, which is Arab and also very Islamic and very light skinned. Mm-hmm. It's like people from Egypt or Algeria are like very white passing. Some people can't tell the difference between them and a European. Sudan is kind of like where the North starts to mix with the South. So, like, especially before North and South Sudan divided, there was quite a bit of, I guess, mixture of skin tones and tribes and colors. And you see people from everywhere. So, for example, my father's tribe, like, is originally, I guess, Arab. It's kind of like brown-skinned. But my mother's tribe, like, it's kind of like mixed. It's like from the north of Sudan. It's kind of like half of them live in Egypt, half of them live in Sudan.
Yeah.
And she's very, very light skinned. Like if you look at, like I'm the darkest person in my family. Like if you look at any of my siblings, like they're like very, very light skinned. So it's like skin tone variations. Like there's no palette, I guess, in Sudan.
Yeah.
You see people who are like black, and then you see people who are brown. Like like my skin tone is kind of annoying because like people look at me and they're like, "Yo, which part of India are you from?" Yeah, because I don't look black enough to be African, but
I was curious if if anyone's ever identified you as like a black person.
Well, it depends. I mean, the thing is, Arabs can tell each other apart. So like I went on a tram in Prague once.
Yeah.
And there was a guy, I didn't even like, it was so random because he was a guy on a wheelchair. Okay? And he is from Tunisia, and he looked at me and he's like, he said it in Arabic, he's like, "This guy's Arab." And I just looked at him, I was like, "Do I know this guy?" And then he paused for a second, he's like, "This guy's also Sudanese." I was just like, I just stared at him. I had like two of my friends from university. They were staring at me and saying, like, "Do you know this guy?" I was like, "I don't know." And then I just saw, "Bro, do I know you?" Like, what the fuck? I was like, no, I just saw your facial features and we just chatted and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, I guess Arabs can tell, but like most other people, yeah, I just look like an Indian dude.
Yeah. So, and then you make the move to Saudi
Yes.
Was there a similar culture shock going from this?
Yeah, I mean, there are some similarities between Sudan and Saudi, but it's very, very different. Like, especially at the time, Saudi is a very, very strict country. Like, I always like to make the example of my mom. Like, in Sudan, she used to, like, drive us to school. She used to work at the school. She used to, like, only wear, I guess, the hair covering. She wouldn't, like, cover her face. But in Saudi Arabia, every woman has to, like, cover her whole body, and including covering her face with the black abaya.
Regardless of religious affiliation.
Yeah, like, especially at the time, like, you had to, like, as a girl, you had to. So it was very weird for like just suddenly seeing my sisters and my mom having to wear that all the time, and everyone else having to wear that. Like to walk down the street and be surrounded by women that you don't know any and you can't recognize.
Yeah.
Like one of the jokes I like to make is that like in the mall I would lose if I lost sight of my mom, I couldn't tell which one was her, and that was like, that is not even a joke. That is an actual real problem.
Yeah.
Like my mom actually, like the problem was so serious that my mom started tying the back of her face cover with like a little bow tie, so we could tell her.
Yeah.
So it's like I would like walk up and be like, look behind her.
That's so funny,
okay,
man.
there you are.
Yeah.
So it's very different, and it's also like, so Saudi is a very rich country.
Yeah.
So like our standard of living it jumped up, like especially from Sudan, it jumped up very, very high.
Is it rich for everybody, or is it rich in the way the United States is rich, which is
it's very similar to the United States. It's kind of a weird mix, because it's like Europe if you're Saudi, but if you're not Saudi, it's the United States.
Right.
It's kind of the system that all the Gulf countries go with. It's like, welfare for our citizens and not U.S. for everyone else.
Right.
Yeah. So, but like my father had he's a doctor. So
what kind of doctor?
He's a surgeon.
What kind of surgeon? Just general.
He's a general, but like his specialty is in digestive system. So
maybe I need to see him, man. I got some stomach issues. We'll see.
All right, anytime I'll book you a flight to Saudi and he'll fix you up, bro.
I would. I don't know. I've got to really keep my mouth shut and probably not podcast this if I'm going to Saudi. Did you see any of that? I mean, like with like Sharia law kind of stuff. Like, did you see anything where that got scary in any way?
So I assume what you're referring to is like the maximum punishments. So like, I remember I have a whole bit about this. I guess I could just do it now. But like in the UK, like, have you seen the movie Aladdin?
The live action
cartoon,
one?
not the cartoon.
Just the cartoon one. Yeah.
So there's like a scene in it where Jasmine's like just ran away from the palace, and she goes down the street and she sees a young poor boy staring hungrily at an apple.
Yeah.
So, you know, she's a princess. She doesn't care. So she just takes the apple and hands it over to him. And then the shop leader, you know, is angrily grabs her hand and, you know, brings it to the sky. The camera zooms in and it's like, do you know what the punishment is for stealing? Of course, I was a little kid at the time, so I didn't know what the punishment was for stealing.
Yeah.
But then we moved to Saudi Arabia, and the punishment for stealing is off with the hands, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I remember in middle school, like, you know, like we had the books taught us, and it was in the books, like, you know, the punishment for stealing is chopping your hand off. And then I went to high school, and one of the kids in my class stole something from the principal's office.
Oh no!
And he was caught.
No.
And so, like, I remember me and all of my friends, we were like so excited. We were like, is he actually gonna get the punishment? Is he actually gonna get like his hand chopped off? It's so fucked up. What, is that actually gonna happen? And so what, like, on the day where the punishment is announced, they
announce it like publicly to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a big show of it.
That's a very important part of it. Like, they bring out the whole school because it happened in the school. They announce it at the school, and they're like. And the guy grabs the microphone and he's like, and the punishment is 40 lashes. And we're all like staring at each other like, 40 lashes? This isn't what we were taught. What the we came here for a show. What is this shit?
Oh man.
But like, and you know, they carried it out in front of us.
In front, and then it's a public thing. Like,
but like, when you say, so for you to understand what it means when I say 40 lashes, like if I didn't do my homework, like that was 5 lashes.
Right.
So 40 lashes is like nothing.
Right.
It's like I for us, like, they hit us harder at school than they did at the punishment. But that's just how things are back then.
Yeah.
And so I went into university, and I realized that so the chopping off the hand is the maximum punishment. It's not like anyone who steals anything, you know, instantly gets their hand chopped off. There's a lot of conditions for it. So you have to be rich. The thing you steal has to be like very expensive. There has to be like a lot of witnesses. And so if you don't meet like all the conditions, you have to get like a lower punishment, which is usually a bunch of lashes, like between 40 and 100.
With like a leather whip or something.
So the device depends, and this varies quite a bit country to country. In Saudi, it's usually a very light stick. Like, as I mentioned, like in school, they hit us harder. Like they had a harder stick they hit us with than they do in corporal punishment. But like the punishment is more in like the humiliation, like the public aspect, and like everyone that knows you is seeing that, hey, you're getting punishment for doing this crime. Like that guy who did that, like he had to move cities in order to like continue his life.
Really?
Like how's this guy gonna get a job or like gonna get married when everyone knows him as like the guy who stole and the guy who got punished?
Well, is there like a public record of that? Like how would they know?
I mean, public record. I mean, I guess technically there is, but it's not really. It doesn't really like your life doesn't leave the city. Like, I mean, I don't know how this would affect like nowadays with like, you know, phones and shit.
Yeah,
I guess it would have an effect. But like, for example, when I was applying for a job in Sudan, like there's no criminal history or something, any of that garbage. Like we don't use it. So
So how controlled is the media there? And where I'm going
it's authoritarian. It's
okay. So when did you first get exposed to like comedy stuff? Like it just is.
So Saudi Arabia it's such a weird country because like it's authoritarian, but it's like it's not that strongly enforced, and it varies wildly depending on your income level and depending on just where you live. And so like if you live in Saudi and you live in like one of the highly protected compounds, like you can, like even before they lifted the ban, like you could, as a woman, like you could go out and dress in whatever you want. Like I remember at one compound I walked in and there was this girl in shorts walking her dog, both of which is bad. You can't walk dogs either. It's like that. I was like,
wait, why can't you walk a dog?
Does this girl think you? Well, it's not you can't walk a dog. You can't own a dog.
Okay.
Which is all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of complicated. You have like you can own a dog only in certain conditions, like if you need it for like disability or
Okay.
something.
Okay.
But you can't, like, not as just a pet. You can't just keep it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, if you live in one of these compounds, and for a while we did, like, live in one of the compounds, you're very far removed from all of these restrictions. That and the internet.
Right.
Like, there's very little, let's say, limitations on internet use. And so, if you know how to use the internet, you can get anything.
Yeah.
And you can watch anything. And that was how I found comedy. It was like, I watched a bunch of stuff, randomly online, just browsing YouTube. But it was mainly like the Dave Chappelle stuff that really, like, was like, damn, like, that is something I would wish to do. I mean, when I was in university, I got into public speaking.
Yeah.
Like Toastmasters Club. I don't know if you know Toastmasters, but it's like a public speaking.
Yeah. We have that in the US. Yeah.
Yes, it's a US based thing. So like I was the president of that club for like 3 years back in our university, so I was very involved.
Yeah.
So I was like, when I found comedy, I was like, damn, I wish I could do that. Of course, in Saudi, there is a very small local scene, but as a foreigner, I couldn't really get into it much. So I was like, man, I wish I could one day. I could like do what that cool guy is doing.
And could you in Saudi? Could you? I mean, regardless of anything religious or whatever, like comedy varies culturally, country to country, so much. Like French comedy is so much different stylistically than like American comedy and stuff. But can you be like irreverent in the comedy there? Like, is there any? Can you
see? It's very hard to say because so Saudi culture is an extremely like private culture where like in your home or in your tribal tent, you could make fun of anyone, anything, all the time. Yeah. But there's no really such a thing as like a public scene, I guess, where anyone can make fun of any. Like no. Saudi, no. Like even two Saudis from different tribes. When they meet, like they can't make fun of each other, or else it's like that's serious business, bro. You wanna. One of the biggest threats you can make, like to a person in Saudi, is like, oh, fiha gabayl, or like, oh, like that's tribal. Like don't make this tribal. Like like
so
don't bring the tribes
cordial
into
and
it.
polite.
Yeah. Outside, like in public and stuff.
Yeah.
So, so that's when I like. So like the public comedy scene, the weird thing is like when the internet was just starting to boom, particularly 2010 before the Arab Spring, like there was a kind of a blossoming of like a lot of comedians on YouTube, especially like some of the big names,
and you have free access. There's unrestricted YouTube, Netflix, all this kind of stuff.
All the stuff at the time, and there was like actually like political commentary on YouTube on Saudi stuff, but that lasted up until the Arab Spring happened, and then post Arab Spring things were very, very tight, and Twitter, YouTube especially. For some reason Saudis don't use Facebook much, but like those two platforms especially, like the comedians that used to they went to, we have a saying in Saudi, like they went behind the sun. So it's like when the government takes puts you in jail, or we don't even know, they put you in jail, they kill you, we don't know. But as far as we're concerned, you're behind the sun. We don't know where you are.
Right.
So they went behind the sun. What a shams.
I love when phrases are translated from other languages, because like I think people who grew up with, I mean, I know this isn't you, but like when people grew up like non-native English speakers and they don't know maybe the English turns of phrase, so they'll translate their cultures, and it sounds so poetic and beautiful. Like I went on this date with this Colombian girl. She said, what did she say? I'm so social that when I talk to the walls talk back to me. And like this is like, I guess in Spanish, like a phrase, not in English, but it's still very beautiful, and I know exactly what it means, but it's like I think it's just super cool to hear those things. So yeah, hidden behind, or they're behind the sun. I like that.
Hidden behind the sun.
Yeah. So, and then, okay, so then after Saudi, where did you head to?
Well, I mean, I've moved here very, very recently. Like
so you were,
it's like a year ago.
And you were in Saudi before that?
Yeah.
And,
right before.
And how old are you again?
Right now I'm 25.
25, okay.
So moved here at 24, yeah.
All right, so I know I've asked this every place you've moved. So then going from Saudi as a, now man, whatever, moving to here, did you once again have like a culture shock?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the biggest culture shock it was my first encounter with, I guess, alcohol, the alcohol world, the alcohol scene.
Yeah.
And I came to the beer capital of the world, so that's very strong here.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the UK, you didn't see much of it as a kid, I think. And people are very, I don't know, it's a lot more everywhere here than it is back in the UK. Well, in the UK, it's like you drink in the bar and that's it. Like here, you drink everywhere all the time.
I wonder though, when I was in Edinburgh, like it was sloppy and people throwing up in the streets. And
like around the bars, people are throwing up on the street.
Yeah.
But here people are throwing up everywhere. But I guess here is because bars are everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, so like I remember the city in the UK that we lived in, or like we lived in multiple cities, but like the last one at least. Like there was one little corner where there was like 5 bars, and then the rest of the city was like clean, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
And that tends to be the case. Like it's not like every 2 roads, every corner is a bar. Which is what it is here, kind of.
So. And then immediately were you like, I'm going to start doing comedy, or what was the moment of decision?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I stayed here. I mean, I came here studying my master's degree. And I remember I saw, I was just going around on Facebook looking at the events, and I saw like one for a comedy show. And I was like, damn, there's a comedy show and it's in English? That blew my mind. It's like, in Prague, in English? Damn, let me go. So I went and I saw quite a few comedians, Grant being one of them. Actually, I remember during that show, Grant asked like the audience, is there anyone from Scotland? And then no one raised their hand. And then I was like, I kind of raised it like half. Like, I didn't know, like, kind of, like, maybe. And then he looked at me and he was confused. He was like, are you from Scotland? I was like, kinda.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I was about to say, you look very... And then everyone got silent. And he's like, healthy for a Scot. You look too healthy for a Scottish. I was like, all right. Good one.
Yeah. Yeah, the sun doesn't shine as much in Scotland as other parts of the world. Yeah. Hey, so this is Eric coming in the middle of the episode. It's actually 11 p.m. on the same day, on Sunday the 2nd. So what happens at this point, Babiker / Mohammed, his microphone accidentally got shut off for about 6 minutes. So basically, we were just talking about how he first got started in comedy, how he put his set together. He drew inspiration from, studying public speaking. He was nervous. He actually has a recording of the set somewhere, but he got a laugh in, and that kind of got him started on the getting the comedy bug. And then we were just talking about like comparing to Muslims in the U.S., like that I know a lot who drink and have sex and whatever, and that perhaps like the amount of like the stringency of what it means to be a Muslim certainly varies by culture and region. And in the U.S., like maybe it's a lot more lax, just as it is with the diversity of like what it means to be Christian and so forth. And for example, I asked if he prays 5 times a day, and he said he tries his best, but of course, that's not always logistically possible. He actually prayed after our episode, which I was was cool for me and kind of honored that he was able to do. So anyway, yeah, that's basically the gist of what you missed. And I'm going to let you back into where that conversation picks up. Okay, thanks.
So like we don't have that as we definitely don't have that that level of ease where it's like, you don't have to do anything because Jesus died for your sins.
Right. I mean, yeah, you can be
but at the same time, we don't have like there's no like a clear. I mean, there's no there's no get to jail free card.
Yeah,
it's like you do your best and hope for the best. Like that's kind of how it is, and so everyone does their best. But there is like on average, like probably the average Muslim like practices whatever part of their faith. Like one thing I've noticed since I've come here, like no matter what kind of Muslim you are, like 99.99% like don't eat pork. Like that's where they draw the line.
Yeah,
which is like it is forbidden, but it's not that big of a deal. Like considering rule wise, like alcohol is definitely a bigger deal than pork. But like just culturally, it's weird because this is where culture and religion mix. Like culturally, it's seen as very disgusting where I'm from. Like the smell of pork, the sight of pork. It's like it genuinely like it quenches my stomach like when I smell it.
In a
So,
way
like, I
that like
understand.
a goat or sheep is not this way.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Like it's very very different for me. So like I would never want to. So I'd understand why people don't do that rather than I guess the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend who he used to have a job working in a slaughterhouse, and I said if there is one thing he would never eat, and he said pork, and he said just because of the way the animals are treated, like the
The way they're
pigs,
treated, okay.
the pigs get it the worst of any of the animals that are like,
Really?
yeah, that's what he said. And like the least, like pigs are actually naturally on their own very clean animals, but if they're not, if they're put in a metal cage and whatever, like they're
See that's like that sounds so radically different to what we're used to. Like I guess in our imagination, like pigs are the dirtiest animals, but not like to my understanding, like they eat their own poop or something.
No,
like
I think
that.
they.
Like, I don't know, something like that.
I don't think it's that.
That's what we.
I don't know. I'll have to fact check myself out. But I was told that they're actually it's like a
But I've heard, yeah, exactly. Like since coming here, I've heard that line. That, like apparently they're the cleanest. But like I remember hearing that line. It's like, how are they clean exactly? But,
they're also like super like they're way smarter than dogs and stuff. Like they're super
I
intelligent.
mean, yeah, I have heard that they are like very similar. They're very close to humans in some weird biological ways. Like when it comes to heart transplants, apparently a pig's heart is like,
I know
one
they
of the
did, like
closest.
a kid. Yeah, all that stuff.
It's weird. Yeah.
So, is there anything in the comedically that like do you feel like you're having to be cognizant of your religion or your faith while you're doing comedy, like to make sure something isn't somehow sacrilegious?
Not really. I mean, I like to talk about my experiences, and I like to talk about religious stuff personally. So like I do end up talking a lot about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think because I am, I guess, from that faith and like raised within it, like I know sort of how to talk about it without offending, I guess, my own people too much.
Yeah.
So I don't worry about it too much. But yeah, there's a little bit on the edge. Just like, am I saying this right? Like, is this do I sound proper here? Yeah. There's a little bit of worry towards the end. Yeah.
Have you have you had other Muslim people in the audience ever?
Yeah, a couple times.
They like come up to you afterwards and been like, "Oh, cool, man!" Like
Yeah,
representation,
it is pretty funny. Like when that happens, I usually do get a comment. No, usually not the ones I'm expecting, because most of the Muslims that I meet are like, they've been here longer than me, I guess, and maybe they don't know how things are in Saudi. They don't. That's like people from Turkey, people from a lot of these countries. But I think it's right. Well, I've learned a lot of it from talking to them. I've learned a lot of things about their country, because I don't know much about particularly the Russian sphere of influence countries, and there's quite a few Muslim countries in there. So like those tend to be a lot less practicing than like Arab Muslim countries. So like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan. There's a lot of them here in Czech Republic. So I have met a lot of them since coming, and so learning about their experiences, like in their countries, like drinking is pretty normal. Everyone drinks.
In Albania and Turkey too. I mean, that's where I was, but like, and I think also in the bigger cities, like I think in like more rural areas, you'd see more
practicing. Exactly, especially in Turkey. I think like the small cities and small towns, it's like you can find places that are very practicing.
Yeah. All of them though would have mosques, and all of them would have like the calls to prayer. Yeah. And it is like
and even the big cities, you will find your conservative part of the
population.
Right?
But like I weirdly, or I mean I don't know if it's weirdly, but some people okay, so when I was in like Malaysia, I was just there one night, like in Southeast Asia, and I found the mosque call to prayers like quite like it'd be like 5 a.m. or something, and it'd be like, oh God, like I like waking up. But then for some reason, maybe because the time of year was different, and does that change when they occur?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, the time of prayers is based off of, I guess, the movements of the sun.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's pretty much like the first morning prayer is supposed to be half an hour before sunrise.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very, very early in the morning.
Yeah.
Then, like you have the one where the sun is in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
That's usually around 12. And then the one where the sun is like just in the corner.
Yeah.
One when the sun is setting.
Yeah.
And one which is 1 hour after sunset. And so, especially in Europe, like the sun moves very wildly. So it changes very rapidly.
Yeah. So when I was in Turkey and Albania, particularly Turkey, I found it actually quite soothing and quite almost like,
I hear that quite well. Yeah, I miss it a lot.
like when you hear like church bells and you're like, oh, it's noon or whatever because they're ringing the bells. But yeah, I found this and also like to be straight up, like a lot of the it's not the
It's called the adhan, the call to prayer.
Yeah, but the guy doing it is okay. Like a lot of them have like amazing voices, you know what I mean? And so it was just like
people pick them specifically for that's how you get that job. Is if you have a good voice.
Wait, can you talk into the microphone?
Oh shit! I'm literally just eating this shit. I'm sorry.
Just chilling on some pistachios over there.
You need to get some holders. Yeah, that's fine. That's how you get that job. If you have a good voice. If you don't have a good voice, you cannot become a mueddin.
Right. Yeah. And also I'll say particularly Turkey, like more than Albania, the landscape of the mosques is so beautiful. Like,
of course,
the architecture of it.
The capital, bro. That's those mosques are like the buildings there. The architecture is quite insane. It's like,
yeah. So this is not related to comedy, but there was this debate happening. I'm in a bunch of expat, immigrant, foreign, whatever Facebook groups. And this caused this like more controversy than I've ever seen in any of those groups. Someone posted in there, is it possible, like I'm not a Muslim man. Can I date a Turkish Muslim woman?
Oh my god!
and it caused. So I was actually, when I first got to Antalya, I was struggling with the the Metro card machine, and this Muslim woman and hijab and everything came up, and she's like, "Oh, do you need some help?" in pretty perfect English. I was like, "Oh, I wasn't encountering that so much in Turkey," and she was really nice to me and really kind, and then we switched Instagrams, and then we ended up going out for coffee together, and she was really pretty, and I was like, wait, am I on a date right now? What?
Yeah. Oh my god.
And we sat and we talked for some hours and stuff, and would send memes to each other and whatever. And I'm like, oh my god, I never thought that this might be where my dating life would take me or whatever.
All right.
But so.
Wait, how did that go? I need to know.
Well, no, there was. I was leaving Antalya for Bodrum, and so I mean that was kind of. And she actually she works in Poland, so even she was saying, as a Muslim, being compared to once she left a Muslim country and she's in Poland, I mean I think she's drank alcohol before. It exposed her to a lot more cultural flexibility in that community in Poland. But I was just, and so, I mean, there were a lot of Turkish women who were saying we're all free to make our own decisions, whether, of course, there's sins, if you want to call them, across the board. And mainly the men were saying, no, as soon as you do this, you're not a Muslim.
Wait, the people actually saying that? If you do that, you're not a Muslim?
Yeah.
That's very weird to say.
But you can be a Muslim guy and date a non-Muslim woman.
I mean, it's kind of half. What they're saying is not too far off, but far off enough to the point where, yeah, it's wrong. But so the ruling on that specifically is, I mean, the way that works is that, well, first I guess we have to clear that in Islam there's no, there's marriage. And that's kind of it. There's no dating. Well, just get married. So when you're asking me, do you date? So it's Like, can you hang out and talk with a Muslim woman? Yes, I guess. But like,
but how do you know if it's heading in the marriage direction?
Do you want to marry her?
Well, you wouldn't
That's how it works.
I feel like that would be determined by. I guess.
But that's here it comes like the difference is like you have to figure that out pretty fast, right? Like if that's what you want to go for normally, at least traditionally, like culturally, religiously, and yeah, like and then the marriage process is a certain way, and yes, if as a non-Muslim you cannot, like according to Islam, yeah, as a non-Muslim you cannot marry a Muslim woman. As a Muslim man, you're under very certain conditions. You can marry certain non-Muslims. Like, so you can marry, like, and this is very specific. So, like, you can marry virgin Christian and Jewish women. So, like, so literally, like that. So it's not like, oh, you can marry as a Muslim man, you can marry anything. Like, no, it's very specific, and I think that like that condition alone like cancels out most.
Yeah, there was
most options, but yeah.
Well, the way it was described to me, which in my opinion is sexist, but that's in a lot of religion, is that it's okay for the Muslim man to be with a non-Muslim woman because the man is stronger and he will bring her closer to the faith. But that if it's a Muslim woman with a non-Muslim man, the woman is weaker and she'll be brought out of the Muslim faith. And so this is why it's okay for men, but not okay for women.
Well, I don't like. I'm not sure if that's all the reason. Like I can see why that might be like part of it, but like fun. Like again, if you read the whole description of the way it works, is like the conditions for a man to marry a non-Muslim are so hard and specific. It's practically not. It's practically banned for both. If I'm just being, if I'm being honest, it's like, oh, like yes, you can marry a Christian virgin if you can convert her after 1 year. It's like very specific, bro. Like, yeah, if you can do that, fair. And then you can argue the same thing back. It's like, hey, if you're a Muslim girl and you like a guy, convert him and he's it's like that's pretty much what it is. Like if you actually care about the ruling,
yeah, that's
kind of like you look at the details and you look at the rulings and you understand what you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little. I guess it is objectively a little harder for the woman to do it than the man.
Yeah.
And like your comment earlier, like I would say, Islam like it does treat men and women differently. Like we would say, like the way it works is it's equitable. It's like it sees what both sexes need, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and it addresses those. It doesn't pretend that they're the same.
But that's like as dictated by men, right? Like it's men making that decision.
Men, no, it's as as we believe it, like as dictated by God, not by men. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So taking it back to you,
go ahead.
and being in Prague. I mean, we've talked a little bit like off mic about this, which is not specific to a Muslim thing, but like for instance, I try to go sober for a good part of the year.
I'm always excited when I see someone going sober. It's like one of us.
Well, it's been 36 hours, so we'll see. But one of the things I hate the most is that I find that it does impact like dating, and it's in so much of social interactions, but particularly like romantic dating interactions are based around alcohol. Like the phrase you say is, "Oh, let's go get a drink," and people like let their inhibitions down, and it really revolves around this. Even like if you're with a girl and you're like, "Oh, let's do a shot together," this is like a social moment of a shared experience, you know what I mean? And so when that's inequitable, as like to use that word, where they're doing it but you're not, but then they feel uncomfortable that you're not doing it, and it becomes like this thing.
Yeah.
When you moved here to Prague and you saw like this difference in alcohol culture, like how did that make you feel? Or what were some of the emotions going around?
Like,
that?
Guess no girls for me, am I right? I mean, that's kind of the. I definitely underestimated how central it is to everything.
Yeah.
Like as you mentioned, like specifically to dating, but it's really like it's dating, it's socializing, it's being comfortable just around people, because it is very very. It's like being invited to places. It's like it is very weird to be the one person who's not drunk around lots of drunk people.
Yeah.
I always feel like, you know, if someone's, let's say, not in control, I always feel like responsible to help them. And like I've gained a bit of a reputation as just being the guy who's like, oh, if you lose control, you can always depend on Mohammed to send you back home. It's like it's like so yeah, like I'm not sure what like you pretty much said, like it is very big, it's very common. Do you I'm not interested in it. Like it is what it is. Yeah.
I mean, so there's some comedians who don't drink. I mean, does that help at all, like in terms of camaraderie, or I don't know, like
yeah, a little, like in a mild way.
Yeah,
but like it's nice, you know. Like, oh, someone who doesn't drink. Whenever I see someone having a lemonade, I get so excited. It's like, damn, one of us. Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing I was gonna say is like even like the culture around, like, because I don't drink a lot of beverages at home that beyond like water or like, and then like I'll have like beer on hand, like if someone wants a beer, if I'm gonna go out. So like even sometimes, yeah, like if someone comes over and like, do you have a lemonade? I'm like, no. But I mean, I do now, but or orange juice or whatever. But like, What about like so much of comedy? And I mean, I'll say maybe I'm someone you could point this finger at, but like, is about like crazy stories or raunchiness or debauchery or this kind of stuff. When that's kind of absent from your life, well, you
can't really make jokes about it, right?
Well, yeah, like when you're living a purer life than some of your whatever I'm trying to say.
I see
your other comedians, like
it does feel a bit left out, like but it's like one day we'll grow up and we'll have some stories to say, but like, until then,
do the American Muslim comedians that you're aware of, like, are they as stringent with their practices as you are, or you're aware of?
No. Okay. to put it bluntly, but it is quite cool to see them talk. So like some of them, you know, might be more practicing than you might, you know, first assume. But it is sort of like everyone. I mean, one of the things that I find the most attractive about comedy is that it's fundamentally about you know, talking about your life and like expressing your character, I guess, on stage. And like to be able to like express your frustrations, your like otherwise hard to express opinions in public, to do that like on stage, to get away with it through comedy, through jokes, like that's always amazing. Like, I mean, did you know that Dave Chappelle is Muslim?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he mentions it on stage, but
a couple times, yeah.
But I'm guessing he doesn't live the same life that you live. I mean,
probs not.
I mean, but I think like he drinks on stage sometimes, and like, and I know he's not been he's openly not been faithful and all this other kind of stuff. But
that's the thing, like that's his like, I don't know. Like, but actually like the way he talks, like when the few times he does, like the way he talks about I think Dave Chappelle not specifically because he barely mentions it, but there's a few other comedians, like when they bring up religion and like how they experience their life, like being a Muslim in the US. There's one guy in particular, his name is Rami. He has a show on Hulu, I think, called Rami as well. Yeah. But like his stand-up was like insane. Like I remember he did a bit. Oh man, he did like 20 or 50 minutes on like marrying cousins, and it's like it is insane. Like like I've never wanted to steal a bit more in my life because it's just so true.
I want to watch that, and I swear to God, it's written down in my notes, and that's so weird that you bring that up because I have a question about cousin marrying. So this is a good transition, I guess. Nice. So I was in a bar in Berlin, and already there I'm in a bar in Berlin, and this guy's drinking, so there's that. But he's Syrian, and he was telling very proudly, in a way that in the U.S. or I think in some Western cultures there would be a big stigma and like almost a shame around this, and he was the exact opposite. He said, in this village, there's a 5-block radius. Everybody comes from my great grandfather, and these are all cousins, and you only marry within your cousin.
Oh yeah.
And like, and they all have the same, So yeah, I mean, a lot of names, but all the same last name, and it's this patriarch of this. I don't know, half a mile of like people.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious the culture around that, and where does that stem from?
So I think it's important first just to point out that like in most cultures, like marrying your cousin is technically okay. Like I think it's only prohibited like religiously at least by Christians, but specifically Catholics. I think even Protestants is like some of them say yes, some of them no. And then in other like in Eastern cultures, it's the same. It's like mostly okay.
Well, there's also the fundamental, like, which people bring up, like, how did Cain and Abel have children? Because you just had Adam and Eve. And it was like,
no, they married their brothers. Yes.
Well, no,
that was the only option.
They had to have sex with their mom. That was the only way that they could have had.
They had male and female children, not with their mother. But like, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I don't know how Cain and Abel initially had children, but
wait, Cain and Abel aren't the first. The first are Adam and Eve, and then they had Cain and Abel and other daughters and sons.
I don't think there's any reference to any other daughters.
Another us.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have the same story.
All right. This is news to... All right. Again, I'm going to have to Google this.
Wait, wow. Actually, what is the story? Isn't the story in the Bible that the main thing they were fighting over was one of their sisters, actually?
I don't...
Because so which one of them was the bad one? Was it Cain or Abel?
Cain, I believe.
So I think the story, at least from what I remember, is that like Abel was supposed to marry like the hot sister, and then Cain was jealous, and so he killed him. I'm pretty sure it wasn't just like that's it says, a biblical story. Yeah.
It says after Cain killed Abel, he married Cain's wife.
Exactly.
But where did the wife? But where did the wife come from?
Yeah, it's the daughter of Eve.
Well, she's never referenced specifically as a daughter. It's just you have to figure out.
I don't know. Like I could look up the reference, but like I'm pretty sure.
Some have attempted to say that Cain's wife came from a race of Adamic humans who were around before Adam and Eve.
Oh, it's legit like not referenced in the Bible.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, that surprises me. I guess maybe I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, the idea of Cain marrying someone from this race creates more problems than it solves, because then it talks about basically it's like an interspecies with some sort of... I don't know. But
no. At least, yeah. So I guess maybe our version of the story is different or slightly...
Yeah.
But yeah.
So okay. So we got that out of the way. Yes, it's very common practice. I mean, in royalty and so forth.
Okay. Yeah. So wait. So first thing, it's very common outside of Western cultures. Second thing, I don't think so one of the main fears about it is that you will have not very healthy children, right? If you marry your cousin, and that's true to an extent. So like for example, if you marry your sibling directly, your kids are gonna be fucked up, like genetically. If you marry your cousin, like the chances of your kids being fucked up it goes up very, very slightly compared to like marrying a stranger. They do go up like somewhat significantly. I think it's like 16% or something, but like it's still very, very small. I'm pretty much just doing Rami's bit, but like if you double cousin, then she gets fucked up really bad. So like if you marry your cousin and your kids marry their cousin, then it goes up.
Yeah.
So like as long as you don't double cousin, it's
Got it.
That's on the genetic level.
Yeah.
On the cultural level, it's a very tribal plus village thing. So like what you described as, okay, this is a guy from a village, and everyone from that village is very proud of all they do is marry cousins. Yeah, like that's pretty much, that's pure village tribal culture, because like being a member of the big family is sort of the biggest, like the most important thing. And so the members of that family, they're highly incentivized to marry from within that family, because you just have more people of that family. So it's like,
there's like a pride in keeping it pure and all that kind of stuff.
So like, I mean, for example, like the Saudi royal family, like only marries from within the Saudi royal family, and a few other royal families. But Saudi, like if you're an Al Saud daughter, like the chances of you, I think it was literally illegal, like for you to marry someone who's not from your tribe, and like one girl was even beheaded in like 1970s, I think, for attempting to it. But yeah, unfortunately, like that's more like fucked up royalty than anything else.
Yeah.
But like you're gonna have to cut that out.
So okay.
But like, I mean, for example, so like in Sudan, like my family, like half of them live, like my father's side especially, most of them live in, like, they come from a village.
Yeah.
And they're very okay with, like, marrying their cousins.
Yeah.
But like my mom's side of the family, they're all in the big cities, and like they would never like for them it's very strange, and none of their relatives marry from within their family, and they don't. Yeah, it's just weird for them to marry. It is a very city versus village thing more than, I guess, religious thing. Like even religiously speaking, it's not prohibited, but it is de-emphasized. It is like there's a saying of the Prophet that encourages people, hey, like, marry from outside your tribe. Don't just marry within your tribe, because that has lots of problems. But like when it comes to, unfortunately, like as I mentioned, like tribal politics and just real culture, especially like in villages and places where tribe is very important, like marrying within the tribe is just the expected thing, and like the right tribal thing to do for your family and for your tribe. So it's like,
and I mean that's true
everywhere.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole joke about, like, oh, they come from bumfuck Alabama and they're married, cousin fuckers or whatever. It's not a big city thing. It's considered like very much like and like, so I found out, I believe my grandfather's parents were first cousins, and so. But I was like, back in the day when, like, you had to, like, fix, like, a wagon wheel to get over the hill to the next town or whatever. I mean, to intermingle with, it was...
Wasn't that easy,
Yeah, like, I get it. Okay, we have a question from one of your friends, actually, I wanted to get to. So this is,
what's his name?
This is from Man of Elegance on Instagram.
Okay, I know who he is.
So he says, and I don't even know what this means, so you'll have to explain it. Mm-hmm. How far have you come in your MUN journey?
Model. That's short for Model United Nations.
Oh, okay. As soon as I said it out loud and you told me about the Toastmasters thing, that kind of
clicked. Yeah. Is it? So that's how I discovered Prague at first. Like, so. Model United Nations was another public speaking club that I was a part of back in university, and our university had a thing where every year it sponsors like one international trip to an MUN conference where we go. Do you know what Model United Nations is? Or?
Yeah, I just had never seen that acronym. Yes, now that you say it out loud.
Yeah, it's like the United Nations, but all the students model a country. So, for example, I would represent, I don't know, Zimbabwe in the African Union, and I would go and debate for why Zimbabwe thinks we should do this to solve global warming or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, how's my MUN journey going? I don't think it ended 3 years ago, and I don't think it will ever be revived. I've grown. It's something. It was cool while I was in it, but like I've definitely grown out of it, and I don't think I will join an MUN. But if SJ is listening, keep going to MUNs, bro. They're cool, and have fun.
Yeah. Well, and you're on a new journey, and so I guess maybe my last question would be like, where do you hope things go with comedy? I mean, what would be, if you think like, man, that would be so cool if I was able to do this or that? Like, what does that look like to you?
I think for now, my comedy hopes is to get good for the most part at comedy. Like I'm really looking forward to doing comedy in other places, not just in Prague. Like I look forward to visiting Germany, Berlin, and other places in Europe, in the UK, in Ireland. Yeah, like I don't think I will stay in Prague for too long. Like I think it's gonna be another year for me, and then I'll probably look for another target. But I'll see how that goes. Like I'm not sure where I will go to next, or what country, or how that will go about. But yeah, my hopes will be to move to another country, maybe, hopefully, like an English-speaking country, to make everything easier. Like maybe Ireland, UK, I don't know.
Yeah,
but we'll see. And then check out the comedy scene there. Maybe establish more permanent stuff, and see how she goes.
Could you, if you go back to the UK, I mean, I would think you were fucking born there. Can't you like petition to get a passport?
So, I mean, I literally asked a lawyer about that, and like the guy was like, you could technically apply, but like you have a 10% chance of success. It's like because technically, if you qualify for citizenship, like as a kid, you're supposed to get it as a kid. So if you grow out of that, especially if you pass 18, you kind of enter this legal gray area where you kind of you used to be qualified, but are you still qualified? You're kind of too old to be applying for this, even though you were here 10 years ago. Like, so it becomes like kind of questionable. So maybe not. I'll go and see. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. Let us know. So, cool. Do you have any like social media if people want to follow you or add you or whatever?
I think on Instagram, I have an Instagram and YouTube, Babiker the Traveler. It rhymes, yay. And I have a podcast of my own where I had Eric on. Let's make sure we upload these together so we can reference each other properly. And that's it, I think. Yeah, it's on any podcast stuff, and mainly YouTube and Instagram. You can find me. Yeah.
Cool. For me, just follow me at Eric on the World, and I'm trying to upload more, like take more video comedy stuff and uploading that, and Otherwise, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Honor is mine.
And for the listeners, until next week, no matter where you are in the world, be well and be loved.
Bye-bye.